And here in our studios, Mary Rice Hasson, Director of Catholic Women's Forum at the Ethics and Public Policy Center. Mary, as Pope Francis left Cuba this morning, he met with families, and he's going to focus on the family here in the United States. How does this build up the domestic church, all of this focus on the family?
I think, first of all, you look at Francis and you look at that joy on his face and that sense that he cares about the well-being of all families, but in particular Catholic families. And so I think that alone is a boost and is an encouragement. But even more than that, I think it was a powerful message he delivered when he was talking about the revolution of tenderness. Because what he's saying to families is, you have, especially families in a place like Cuba where they're oppressed, you have the power to make things better. That change begins in our hearts. And so that's a message that really is for all of us, that we have that power.
You talked about the family being a space for freedom. I thought that was really key, too. So what are the key challenges facing families there in Cuba and here in the United States?
You know, I think it's a very similar one. We think we're so different from Cuba. But the challenge is faith. How do you help faith take root in our young ones? How do we spread our faith? And in Cuba, you have a situation where you have a lot of baptized Catholics, but fewer than 10% actually go to church. And it's because they've been worn down not just by the cares of life, but by the oppression of the government. And we think that can never happen here. But our faith has been worn down as well by our struggles, but also by the culture. And so there was a Pew study that came out recently where they were talking about Catholics, and in particular, Catholics who are still going to church, but who are under 30. 40% of them, nearly half, 40%, say that they could envision leaving the church at some point. So that challenge of faith for all of us to deepen the faith and expand the faith is very real. What
do you think families need to hear from Pope Francis at this point?
I think they need to hear, you can make things better. He used that wonderful image, and he's such the Pope of images, but he used the image of the grandmothers in Cuba and talked about how in their homes, in daily life, they kept the presence of God alive and they nurtured that. And so I think his message to families here is realize the power you have, realize the strength you have, nurture that faith, reach out, bring others into that circle.
He's very fond of grandparents, which I love because I'm so happy to be a grandparent. I know his grandmother was very close to him. In the World Meeting of Families icon, we see the parents of Mary, the grandparents of Jesus. What do you think his message to the World Meeting of Families will focus on?
I think it's going to be a little bit broader, but I think it's going to be some of the same themes that we hear from him. Mercy, reconciliation, which, as you know, is very important in the family. I think it's going to be, to us as an affluent society, it's going to be service and the common good. Are we really reaching out to others? But in the final analysis, his message is love. Love for God and bringing that love to others.
From the Ethics and Public Policy Center, Mary Rice Hasson, thank you.